I'm your host, Andy Chamberlain, and I take you behind the scenes with growers who share their strategy for achieving the triple bottom line of sustainability. These interviews unravel how farmers are building their business to balance success across people, profits, and our planet. Today's episode comes to you from 3 different locations in central Vermont where we meet with Henry Webb, John Hirsh, and Taylor Mendell. These 3 young farmer friends of mine have been interviewed by me before, and this visit checks in to see how their spring is going so far. I visited the first week of April, and this episode shares some of what's happening this time of year on vegetable farms. Our first stop, Old Road Farm.
I'm Henry Webb, and we're here at Old Road Farm in Granville, Vermont. We're going into our 4th season here. My partner Gabby and I own and operate the farm. We grow about 3 acres. We do a lot of lettuce mix and salad mix for wholesale through the Middlebury Co-op, Huron's Market in Waitsfield, and a few other accounts. We also go to Shelburne Farmers Market, and this year we actually dropped our CSA, which is exciting. So.
And this is the farmer's share. As I hop out of the car and make my way to the greenhouse, I'm greeted by almost a foot of snow that they've still got in their valley.
Knock, knock.
Hey, Andy.
Hi, Andy. Hello, hello.
How's it going?
Good.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just in the area coming through, so I thought I'd stop in, say hello, and see how your season's kicking off.
Yeah, we've been busy. You know, we can show you the greenhouses, and I'll just give you a little tour, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I got to uncover the other tunnel, so we can do that together and
Perfect.
see everything.
The first stop, the propagation house.
Wow, look at this bare ground out there. I haven't seen that in a while.
Our fields at home are drying out.
Really?
Yeah.
A little jealous. Yeah, we're gonna get these tomatoes planted and then just be sitting on our hands for 2 weeks waiting for snow to melt.
Yeah, you're zone colder over here.
Yep.
Well, this feels nice in here.
Yeah, this is nice place to be on a cold, wet day.
These flowers are ready for some sunshine.
I know. Yeah, I know. Everything needs more sun than we've had this spring so far. Gabby's been doing a lot of like perennials and the flowers and stuff for early plant sale. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a fun.
Have you done that before?
We did it last year. I'm trying to. I guess we've had this prop house for 3 years now. So yeah, it's a learning curve of figuring out how to do all that stuff for early plant sales. But yeah, it's working. Germ testing all our lettuce seed.
Ah. Is there much variation, or has it been pretty good?
There's quite a bit of variation because we have a bunch of old seed, and the pelleted seed doesn't last very well.
Have you made any changes to your hot box here?
No. Well, I can't remember what. I put all
I don't
the
think it was
insulation.
insulated before.
Yeah, so I put all the insulation in, which keeps light out of it too. So that really helps with it getting too hot in the summer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty much the same. Yeah, we still use the little waterproof space heater and that mister thing, and then a fan. It's been working really good this year. Yeah, we're figuring out the timing of when to pull stuff. So, yeah, and then when we don't put stuff in there because we don't have room, it ends up crappy. So then I have to then I have to redo. So we'll have to prick out all these 20 rows for our broccoli and kales and stuff because the first round didn't germinate well. So this is my replacements. If people want to put heaters on the ground ground level, they got to keep in mind that it's not the direct heat on little stuff is not ideal.
No, that's a good point.
So that's my
your shovel and a piece of cardboard to
Yep.
to block the heat.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of wish we had hung that heater, but oh well.
Why did you decide not to?
Mike wanted to do it this way. Mike Feiner.
okay.
I don't know. I mean, it's fine. It's nice. It's like convenient, but it's
Easy to work on.
it's
right
easy to
here,
work on.
nice
It's right
and low.
here. I just need to probably figure out a better system than this.
Way to the shovel. It's working.
It works.
Shovel cardboard.
Let's see. Yeah, heat mats here.
Yep.
Those have been good. We just pulled the tomatoes off those. Yep, all kinds of little like flowers and perennials for Gabby that she'll pot up.
Yep.
We're gonna do a row of artichoke this year just for fun.
Yeah, I haven't heard of too many Vermont growers doing that.
Yeah, we had an extra row. Bunch of paper potted peas. We pushed this seeding date back by like 3 weeks when we saw all the snow out there. We were like, we're not getting in early April.
Yeah.
There's no way we're putting peas in. So.
You're liking the paper pot?
For certain things.
Yeah.
We actually are not doing any more paper potted Salanova, which we did a lot of last year. We're going to do Salanova and lettuce in plastic this year. Just trying that system out. The plants never took off the way I wanted them to. And then weeding is an issue, and then, I don't know. But for certain things, for the early peas, it's nice to get a jump start. We've got some paper potted beets in one of the tunnels I can show you.
Yep.
But yeah, we were doing a lot with the Salanova and paper pot last year, and it wasn't my favorite. I don't know. Who knows? We may go back to it. But
The next tunnel we visit has a roll-up end wall, which Henry opens using a drill. We talk about this quite a bit in episode 54 of the Ag Engineering podcast.
So we had 2 pads built last fall for 2 more tunnels that are going up this spring.
Now you've been growing stuff in full sheets of plastic like this for a bit now, right?
This, I think, is our second, 2.5 years, I think we've been doing this system. Because I think, we started with, I think, one house, not last fall, but the fall before that, and then really liked it, and kept going with it. So we've got enough plastic burned now for all the tunnels.
That it's not too bad.
It's nice. Yeah, I like it. It makes transplanting, transplanting is a lot slower than with the paper pot, obviously, but
Yeah. Are there any techniques, or is it just, hand to soil?
it's hand to soil. What we do is just use fingers as a dibble and drop plugs in.
Like
Yeah,
people
so-
fingers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just drop
Poke
it in.
and
It's
plop.
pretty. It goes pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of like fussing around with each plant.
Uh-huh.
We try to plant them high, so that the stems aren't like sitting in a pool of water.
Yeah. What's
yeah.
the size of your holes?
The circle,
Yeah. 3? 2?
I think it might be 2 or 2.5.
2.5 maybe? Do you have to weed the holes at all, or no, because it just shades out?
It depends. We have, in a couple cases, had to. I'll show you one that has a bunch of weeds coming up through it. In general, though, no.
Yeah.
It's just like the odd case where some flush of weeds comes in right at the wrong time.
Generally minor.
But it's it's better than having to weed everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, because we tried doing like the Pac-Man style planting a couple years, and just the weeding in that was horrible. I think this gives us like a longer harvest window and a cleaner product too at the end versus planting in soil. So yeah, it's a little work up front, but it pays off in the end, I think.
So what are you looking forward to most for this season?
I am excited. Well, I'm excited to have those tunnels put up
Yeah.
because that lets us just reserve these for shoulder season lettuce. So we've got 3 houses planted like this to lettuce this spring. Usually we would have to like do the juggle of putting tomatoes in there at some point. And this year we're putting tomatoes in the little house and in one of those houses when it's done. So it gives us more room for a rotation. So the plan is in all these tunnels with the open end walls, we're gonna cover crop them in the summer.
Oh, okay.
And then do another round of lettuce in the fall. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to try the Salanova on plastic. I think that will kind of work similar to this system, but out in the field.
Okay.
And let us keep like good quality throughout the season. I'm getting the cultivating tractor set up. So I ordered a bunch of stuff from Tillmore last fall.
Oh, nice.
And that'll be nice. So less hand work there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about the way the prop house looks right now. All the starts have been looking really solid.
So overall, sounds like the season's off to a good start so far.
Yes. Yep. Nothing's gone wrong yet. But it's early April. So.
Yeah. Well, good to start off strong.
Yep. Another thing we're going to do this year is, so we're doing like permanent irrigation rows in this field, which is our like direct seeded spinach and arugula and radishes and kind of like quick succession stuff. So yeah, we're setting aside 1 row out of every 5 that'll be like just have irrigation set up all season, so we can rotate it like, and that irrigation will be on a line of plastic that'll have like odd stuff like artichokes in it. So then we have the block of 4 beds, which is our weekly planting size for your arugula and spinach. So the idea is not to have to screw around with moving irrigation every time we want to flip those beds.
Yeah.
Gonna be nice.
Yeah, that sounds like a win.
This is the weediest in here.
Ah.
I think this is still freaking lamb's quarters coming up. These greenhouses have had nothing go to seed, like black plastic like this, the landscape fabric for, a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And it's still, you time it right, you just get a flush of lamb's quarters still. So, someday maybe we'll get the seed bank under control.
Overall, have you seen your bank go down? Or not really, because things go
in
sideways?
certain places for sure.
Yeah.
So that, like the road field there, where we are doing a lot of like quick turnover and doing a lot of tarping, I'd say yes. I would have said yes in these tunnels, and except for
that.
except for this nonsense.
You know what type of row cover you're using?
This is DeWitt, I think. We can talk about that when we look at the last house, because that has the Typar stuff that caused a big issue for us last fall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely not using that stuff on our greens anymore. And I forget what all the weights are. This is, I think, the heaviest weight, like, DeWitt that Nolt said.
Uh-huh. Are you using just 1 layer?
Depends on how cold it's going to be. There are 2 layers in here, so
Okay, yeah.
the other night when it was 15 degrees, I put both of them on, and it stayed,
Yeah.
I think, in the high 40s in here, so. But usually I'll just put 1 on.
Everything is so visually satisfying.
Yeah. It's like a really clean, neat
Very
look.
clean, orderly. The tunnel's clean, the crop's clean, the plastic's clean.
Yep.
It's It's awesome.
Yeah, this stuff's starting to grow. You can see the new growth on.
Yeah.
This was the first tunnel we planted, so. Yeah.
About that time of year, things will start to pop.
Yep.
You leave the end walls open most of the day?
Yeah, as long as it's not windy.
Yeah.
I leave at least this. I kind of, yeah.
Let it get a little fresh air.
Let in as much fresh air as I can.
Yeah.
I irrigated yesterday in there. That's why it's so wet.
Uh-huh.
But I definitely like to keep it drier than that.
It's crazy the amount of snow you still have in this valley.
I know. Yeah. Once it goes, things dry out so quick here, though. It's like
Right.
So last fall, we had all these tunnels planted the same way as those ones you saw, with the landscape fabric and hoops and Salanova and then row cover. And we're using this row cover because I just like the heavier weight stuff. We ordered it custom sized for the greenhouse, so it's easy to manage. I think it's 2 or maybe 3 years old, but hadn't seen a ton of use, and it just starts kind of fraying. And we ended up finding those fibers in our salad mix, and some customers found them. And we ended up having to cut our season short and do a recall of some product. And it just was not a very fun experience all around.
No.
So, yeah, definitely being really careful when and where and even if I use this stuff anymore. I'd like to replace all of it, but
Yeah.
yep.
Were the customers like, hey, we found something, or were they pissed?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they thought it was hair because it looks like white hair. So.
Like, nah, ain't that great.
Yeah,
yet.
that's exactly what we had to say. Is no, it's not hair. It's just plastic, which I don't think is any better.
No.
But yeah, that was a bummer. But
Just due to the type of cover it is, or do you think it's just age finally?
it's only like 2 years old, so it. I mean, I felt like it should last longer than that.
Yeah.
I mean, because this is pricey because it's heavyweight stuff.
Uh-huh.
So it's not like, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I'm using it for this stuff that's not like salad greens now because it is heavyweight and
Yep.
it's a better size. It actually covers the whole tunnel. Like those ones are 25 feet, which seems like, or 27 feet, which seems like the widest you can get, which like barely covers our 5-foot beds.
Yep.
This is, I think we ordered this at like 30 or 32 feet or something like that.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Nolts has since changed their supplier for this stuff. So I don't think it's Typar anymore. So, I don't know how that new brand holds up. Yeah, so here we've got, these are the paper potted beets on the outside edges, and then direct seeded carrots that are finally coming up after 3 or 4 weeks in the ground, and I think they look pretty decent. Yeah, you can see this is the cold end because I opened this side up more. But down there,
Yeah, they're popping up a
they're
little bit.
popping
At the end.
up pretty good. Yep, that's kind of what we got going on these days. Dug that rock out this spring. That was a good find.
I was gonna ask what that was doing there.
Yeah, this is,
It was in here.
it was in here. Yeah.
You get a fresh crop every year.
Yeah.
Well, fun. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for showing me around a bit, checking in.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not much else to see, really.
Yeah.
Pile of lumber. There's going to be some greenhouses, and that's about it.
Well, it looks like you don't use too much lumber on your greenhouses.
No, well, these ones are going to be ledge woods that are built in the same style as that one.
Oh,
Because
okay.
they're going to be there's going to be like heated for tomatoes and cucumbers, basically. So for that stuff, I'm not as worried about being able to get tractor in and out, and because it's not as many bed flips. We're probably going to set them up more like that little tunnel.
Yeah.
Another thing we did last fall when we had the excavator here is we like this kind of drive road here.
Yeah.
We dug it out a few inches so that no water is running back into the tunnels,
Yep.
which is like made a big difference in terms of not having any dead spots in our beds
Yeah.
in the early spring when all the snow's melting. So, yeah, we didn't do enough drainage when we put these in initially. So we're kind of having to.
So
go
does
back
it drain
and redo
to
it.
a swale before these?
Yeah, so
houses a bit?
these are raised up like a foot under the snow there.
Okay.
So the idea is that it's going to come this way and then pool like between the edge of where that one will be and
Yeah.
that, the prop house in the little drainage area.
Yeah.
Yeah, still have to do some fine tuning on all that drainage, but gotta wait for the snow to melt. But I think, yeah, once we kind of button up this drainage, there's a few small things that I need to fix this spring. Yeah, you can see those stakes, that far corner. We kind of did that whole field so that there's nowhere in that field now where water's going to pool. It's going to run off either side.
Yeah.
And because that's such like a high value field for us, where we do all our direct seeded grains,
Yeah.
I think not having any bad spots in there will make a big difference.
Were you worried about loss of soil at all with your grading, or not really, because you weren't?
Not really, because
excavating
we're not.
holes?
Yeah, we're not taking any soil from the field. It's just from the edges, and then we're pushing some of that edge stuff into the field. I am a little worried that might create some like fertility issues, where there's stuff that hasn't been like worked on top of the field soil
Yeah.
for this year at least. But I think that'll sort itself out eventually. You want to look at the cultivating tractor quick?
Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing. Oh, we've got some new fields turned over. That's kind of a new thing. So
Yeah.
we're gonna try a bunch of sorghum Sudan and just cover crop them all year. Try to get some organic matter built up in them before we
Yeah.
rotate into.
You gonna
them
mow
next
them
year.
or let them get tall?
I think I'm gonna mow them.
Yeah.
A couple times. Yeah, so still in the process of setting this up, but got a bunch of Tillmore stuff for this old 140. So finger weeders and such. Yeah, this is a good like early spring
Yeah.
photo shoot right here.
Yeah, I'm still working on this. Tools.
Yeah, it's gotta
literally
be
laying in the grass. Yeah.
It's gonna be ready in 3 weeks.
Actively working on it. Honest. Oh no, it's perfect in the shed with the dirt wet floor and the
Yep.
leaky roof with no sides. Yeah, no, it's right out of a storybook.
Yeah, exactly. I did get the old horse manure cleaned out of the shed last year. So
good.
makes it a little nicer to work in there.
Did you have any cultivating stuff on this before?
No, it's been a multi-year process of getting this all put together.
Yeah. So what kind of tools are you putting on these toolbars?
So it's going to be,
Several things.
yes, I worked with Tillmore on their recommendations for like cytoplastic cultivation, because we're trying to do more lettuce on plastic. So it's spiders. I think it's 2 sets of spiders on either side, and then a finger weeder on either side.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, and then I'll have sweeps on the back for the wheel track.
Well, that'll be exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
And with that, we go just down the road, literally, same town, over to Clearfield Farm, where we visit with John, who grows a lot less lettuce and a lot more storage crops. Unfortunately, spring hasn't quite sprung in Granville, and my microphone got cold and shut off. Lucky for you, John did most of the talking, and you can hear me a little bit in his mic, but that's why I'm a little soft.
Hi, I'm John Hirsh. Run Clearfield Farm in Granville, Vermont, and we do root and staple vegetables. The whole farm is 56 acres, and we farm about 15 to 20. We also rent some land, and we are starting to get into grain. So that's how I might introduce the farm next time. We're a root, staple, and grain farm. But yes, that's us. Yeah, things are off to a good start. We actually just sold out of last year's crops like last week. So sent the last order of fingerlings to this last one actually went to Boston, so that was cool.
Oh, nice.
Because now we're shipping out of state, so it's kind of opened up more opportunities, which is nice. Yeah. What do we have going right now?
So with that sale,
yeah.
Was that obviously it's good in the fact that you sold your product, but is that exciting because you were able to stretch your sales all through the winter?
Well, that was the goal going into even last spring, was to, we had already been doing that. Like we built that big cooler, I don't even know how long ago that was at this point, maybe 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. So we've steadily been building the sales base to fit that cooler, like how much we could fit in there is like how many customers we got, and then we'd stretch that out as long as we possibly could. But now we're machine harvesting the fingerlings. So now we're just kind of looking at it more like how much could we do, not like how can we optimize the space that we have. So it looks like we've got demand for about what we were doing in like a month. Now it's looking like it's going to be a week's worth of demand. So now we're like refiguring out the cooler and stuff. And here, actually, let's go over and look at the wash station, because that's where we're making a lot of improvements. But in here, this is the machine shed. I'm just reorganizing. It was just filled with trash for like years.
Yeah.
So I'm finally getting it all out, and I'm at the point now where we're not getting a whole lot of equipment. Like we've got a lot of equipment now, so we're just gonna run with it. And like my goal this year is everything with an engine is either gonna get running or get out of here. Like plow truck's going. The combine, I actually want to get that thing. That's all set up for oats, and that was a running machine when we bought it. So that's kind of been a bummer to like let it sit.
Well, if it was parked running, there's hope, right?
Yeah, it was running good. We drove it onto the trailer. My cousin hauled it for me, but yeah. So that we're doing grain. We planted 3 acres of wheat up the road. So looking forward to finally getting into grain, because I think I had told you, when I got into this, I want to do corn and beans. I want to be like, that kind of operation. I like the machinery, trucking, I mean, I love the farming aspect of it, but I was looking at it more like I want to run a combine all day long, kind of thing.
Yeah, you're an equipment guy.
I'm an equipment guy, so it just makes sense that like I'm working towards that goal. Because the reason we got into vegetables was it was easier to do that with a smaller land base than to get into like growing a couple acres of grain.
Yeah,
it's not worth
Vermont
anything.
Isn't set up for
right.
that.
So really, you have to kind of get unless you start out with a bunch of land, which I know there are operations that have a lot of land at their disposal, and it makes sense for them to get into grain. But for us, it was like, it made more sense to do vegetables first and then slowly work into the
So do you think
grain.
you get into like specialty grains to try to keep that?
I want to do like wheat, and we're talking with bean crafters to do beans. Yeah. So not soybeans, but right. And we're not going to grow just like, shell corn here, but it's a cool prospect to be working towards, because it was like the goal getting into it. So it's neat that it's like finally coming to fruition. And there's a guy that makes pizza just like right up the mountain, kind of where the field is, the wheat field. And he's like, I'll buy all your wheat for pizza. So, I mean, at least I don't have to worry about like where it's going, because he's got all like the milling equipment and everything like that.
Right.
Like he already does this, so. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about, last year was the first year with the harvester, with the fingerling harvester, and it's actually just like a multi-crop harvester. It just, whatever is in the bed in front of it, it's gonna dig it up and put it into a truck. So it doesn't necessarily have like the clod clearing and trash clearing ability.
Was that your big chain digger you were working on last time?
Yeah, I think so. I think we were putting the elevator on it last
Yeah.
time when you saw. Yeah. Yeah, Melissa and I friggin' fought with that thing for like a week to get one bolt in, because it's the hinge that the boom is on is one bolt on the bottom and one bolt on the top, and then a U-joint. So it's like everything's got to be exactly perfect getting this thing lined up, and we're just using like the one tractor we were using's got a flat tire, so we get it into position and just, start working. But we couldn't move that tractor around. It was kind of funny, but yeah, it worked out. And then we were harvesting in, September and October. So yeah, but we're looking to do way more carrots and onions, which this machine in its previous life was on like a pearl onion farm in Wisconsin, and we actually had it shipped out here. And since we've gotten it out here, there's actually a bunch of people who have reached out like, hey, if you ever want to get rid of that thing. I'm like, yeah, I bet you want this. Here, watch this. It's a little treacherous. This is the project. This is like, between this and fixing the concrete in here, this is the big project for next season, or for this season, to get some sort of Arctic entryway in here, because this is how we get stuff in and out.
Right.
And it just fills up with ice like this. It gets treacherous.
Rugged.
It's very rugged, yeah. So we're kind of kicking around the idea, do we put work into this side and just keep using it, or there's a good spot for trucks to back in for a dock. And I think that's what we're gonna end up doing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just, all of it's a ton of work.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you're doing.
It's like,
it's a lot of work.
this is crazy.
Because here you almost need to build like an entry
Like a
point.
frame,
Yeah.
and then a roof on it. Yeah,
wall.
exactly, yep.
Because
Yeah.
it's probably mostly
It's dripping
off
off
the roof,
that.
right?
Yeah.
It's off the roof and landing here and
Right.
freezing.
It's constantly getting heated up by the sun and just making a big ice patch right here.
On the north side of the
Yeah, on the north side, so it doesn't thaw out, and it's a mistake having like a bunch of stuff right here too. Like, this should be wide open, be able to get the bucket of the tractor in here and just scrape all this out, but
Right.
I had it set up like, the other big thing that's going on this year is we stopped doing farmers market. So
Oh, really?
yeah, so we're going totally wholesale. We've got like 10 or so crops, 11, 12, something like that, and some specialty ones, and like ones that are not so specialty and ones that are specialty. So kind of like the gamut. Like we're doing like shishitos and broccolini and ground cherries. Those are like 3 of like the 12. So, but like regular potatoes, fingerlings, carrots, onions, parsnips. That's depending on whether or not we get a flame weeder. Gonna do a bunch of parsnips. We're trialing direct seeded onions this year, like actually trying. Last year we just like threw them in and they got so weedy and we were like, nah, try again next year. But this year I'm actually gonna do like trials of different ways to manage. Like I guess I didn't realize this with onions, but with flame weeding, you can flame weed them after their 5th leaf has grown, which I had no idea. I thought it was like you hit them before they germinate and then what you get is what you get.
Right.
But apparently it's like common for big growers, big organic.
Juice, huh?
Yeah, you just go right through and flame off all the weeds, and the onions just, it's kind of like flame weeding corn, like organic grain corn. They flame weed it because the growth point isn't the first leaf that gets hit by the flame, so it can live through it. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna try a little patch.
Yeah, right. Yeah, don't do it all.
I know that's been the other big thing. It's like, do a little different every year. Don't just like totally do something different.
Yeah.
So we started growing winter squash direct seeded, bare ground, cultivating, that sort of thing. And before that, we were transplanting. We had done some transplanting into plastic mulch. I don't like plastic mulch. We actually we don't use plastic mulch at all, except for in the greenhouses. And that's not even like, I had one roll that I bought, like when we first got here. Actually, no, I bought a plastic mulch layer off of Bob Gray from Four Corners.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I bought a roll of plastic mulch. And it lasted me up until last year. And I got it like in 2017, I got the thing. And last year's 2022. So it lasted me 5 years. And I'm not buying any more. Just no reason to. But we went from, actually we did direct seeded on bare ground. We had a big flood. So we were like, maybe that wasn't the way to do it. So then the next year we did transplants on plastic. Didn't like that. Then did transplants on bare ground, like that more, but we weren't cultivating as much, so it got weedy. And then we were just running into issues with like getting enough help to do the transplanting. So then we switched half transplanted, half direct seeded. And the direct seeded, it was a little less yield, but made up for it in less cost and way less time invested into it. Like way made up for it. So then we just went to straight direct seeding, and it's just been like good for us. It's not good for everybody, Yeah, but we're like doing that kind of thing, like refining how things work best for us. Like totally would not say what we're doing here, like anybody should model and like get perfect results, but
what works for you, what
yeah.
you like to do.
Yep. Yeah. This was a huge improvement. This thing's called a dirt table. So the harvester does not clear clods very well. Yeah. And actually just puts like a ton of dirt into the bin with the potatoes.
Yep.
So you have to run the potatoes, or you have to run everything in the bin through this and then leave another bin over there, like catching the potatoes that come through because all the dirt falls through. Yeah, which this is kind of set up a little like, this I wasn't thrilled with, but the dirt just goes on the ground, then you got to shovel it back into a bin, which that really sucked. But what we're gonna do this year is you can buy this is called like knobby belt or something like that, knob belt. Yeah, this is a Haynes product, so that's like out of New York State. I'm pretty sure Haynes is. Yeah, it's funny. Like these are just like wooden dowels that you just staple this stuff onto. So so our harvester actually has something similar to this, but it's made out of stainless steel. Yeah. This is like what's on the back of the secondary chain. So there's the primary chain that gets everything directly from the share, like what's coming out of the bed goes on the primary chain, and then that's the one that shakes around and like bounces all the silt off of it. Yep. Then it falls onto another chain that's supposed to suck the trash through, and then what's on the chain goes onto rollers like this. But they're smooth because in Wisconsin, where it's from, they've got like just straight up sand soil, and they need it to flow through like that without much resistance, I guess. So I'm just gonna put these on the rollers and do this operation just right on the machine. And then the only thing that we'll have to do in wash pack is sort rocks. So, and I'm thinking maybe like a rock trap of some sort, like stuff goes over a little water bin to catch, because it's not a whole lot of rocks. We've got, for Vermont, we are blessed. We've got like, well, blessed, and there's disadvantages to it too, but we're in a real low spot here. So it's just so many feet high of silt. Like you can just dig and dig and you'll hit gravel, but it's like 5 feet deep. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're not going to get that in typical cultivation.
No, I mean, even at old roads, I was just over there last night hanging out with them, and Henry showed me this huge rock in the one tunnel. He like, it's like, oh my God, where'd you find this? He goes, the Ripper pulled it up. We don't have that in our bottom land anyway. We've got a couple of fields that are higher, and they are definitely rocky, but they just got a rock picker too, which our tractor's big enough to run it, so we're gonna run it down there, and then the trade-off is I get to run it here a little bit. So I'm gonna pick rocks out of that field, and there's a field up by the house here that I'm gonna pick rocks out of too. So then that'll, this should be what's left, like the little. Oh, that's actually.
Hey, see that one?
That's actually dirt. The other thing is doing it when it's dry is better. Like doing the harvesting dry. Yeah. Yeah, in here we're gonna make this wing into the next edition of the cooler, and then so this whole thing will be the whole center will be a cooler, and then fixing the floor, make it all flat, get the chain gutters out of here finally, and then be able to take pallets. And this will probably be a sliding door right here, so we'll just still take pallets.
Concrete work some more? Or
Concrete. Yeah. My dad and I are gonna do it. Yeah. Probably just fill in with rock a little bit and then slap some concrete on it. And I'm kind of thinking like, yeah, we might mess it up, but I've heard of people paying for concrete work and it gets messed up. So like, why not?
Give it a go.
I'm gonna give it a go. We're in an area where we're like competing with the second homeowner mason guys.
Yeah, they're not who you need.
No. Yeah, I got a quote for 10 grand just to do the floor fixing, and I think we can realistically do it for like 3.
Yeah.
Not to say it's not worth paying somebody to do something, but from what I've seen in agriculture, paying more doesn't ever get you anything. Like, then you have to maximize yields or something. Like, if something goes wrong, it's like the whole thing's in a tizzy. And I would just rather save some money here and there, do it, good enough. Like the wash line is CAPS certified. The cooler is going to be CAPS, so it's all going to be done right. It's just maybe slower, and I got to do it myself. Yeah. And that's a reason that we stopped doing the farmers market too, because I'm not making enough money at farmers market to pay for this kind of stuff to get done. So I have to just do it myself. And if the trade-off is I find more wholesale customers and get rid of the 3 days a week that we're getting ready for farmers market and then the farmers market, I think that's like the. Yeah. And I talked to some other bigger growers that I admire too, and they were like, we start selling when we're ready, which is a different mentality than the farmers market. Like, you got to sell when the farmers market starts.
Right.
Otherwise, you look like a chump with like 2 things on your table for the first month. Like, you got to pilot high and watch it fly, and that's just not exactly. It can be done, and we've done it, but it's not sustainable for me, I guess, like with the type of business that we're trying to grow. Because like we're trying to do, multiple bins of stuff a day. Ideally, I would like to be able to process multiple bins, like multiple thousands of pounds of stuff a day, and doing like $60 worth of this thing for farmers market, $50 worth of this thing, and it's like doing all this hopping around. And I'm not making money on any of it. It's just for people to buy at farmers market, or like picking kale, just so it I call it table fluff. Yeah. The stuff you bring to farmers market and it doesn't sell. It's the decoration. Yeah, I mean, people can sell bunch kale farmers market. Don't ever stop doing farmers market. But we could only sell like the real tough stuff. Yeah. Like cherry tomatoes, sugar snap peas before anybody else had them. It's like the tough stuff. And I just want to get into like getting the operation set up like really well. I want to have really good processes for everything. Do a lot with machinery. And all this kind of stuff like getting the floors fixed and doing the construction stuff. You just have to have time to do it. So I'm feeling good about not being spread too thin with like a really ambitious crop plan, and having like a good sense of what construction work we can get accomplished this year. And I think it's going to outweigh what we could potentially make at farmers market too. Just like, being realistic. Yeah. Because like if we were to pay for all this stuff, like a lean-to has got to be what if you pay somebody to do it anymore? Like just lumber's got to be a couple grand.
Yeah, right.
So you got to be looking like 10 grand. On a good farmers market year, that's a third, and that's one project that we can get done at a quarter of the cost.
Yeah.
Like just me and I don't know. These are my lofty goals. We'll see what happens. But I'm definitely feeling there's like a weight lifted, just focusing on what actually makes us money. I mean, it is a business at the end of the day. Everything's got to make money. Like, I was just talking to somebody about this. Like, Black River Produce isn't trucking stuff because they're like passionate about it. I mean, yeah, there's some passion involved, sure, but it's not like I'm willing to lose money to drive this truck to, Shaw's.
Right. They're not going to do that.
They're not doing it. Why am I doing it? So.
Well, I remember, I think it was just a year ago, maybe it was 2 at this point, but you had made the decision to cut your crop count significantly.
Yep.
And you were like, big weight off my shoulder.
Yeah.
Focusing down, you're not doing 40 different things anymore. You dropped it down to probably 20 at that point.
I think it was like 20, a little over 20.
So it's like,
and that was a great idea too. Yeah, that was, and that didn't make a difference at farmers market. It really didn't. We just stopped bringing kale, like we just didn't have that table fluff, and nobody asked us for it. Not a single person, no Swiss chard, nobody asked us for it. We would bring we would set up one of those 8-foot tables and fill the whole thing with sugar snap peas, and people loved it. And it made us as much money as doing all the whole gamut, which I would listen to. I think was it your podcast maybe with the Wiz, Richard Wiswald, where he was saying.
No, I haven't had him on yet.
No, okay. He was talking to somebody about how they went from doing the whole whatever, like 100 crops.
Yeah.
And they were getting burnt out or whatever the reason was, and they went down to just like tomatoes and bedding plants or whatever it was. And they made the same money and were not stressed. It's like, this is great. Like, we should all be kind of, to feed our area, like, and this is just in Vermont. Like, we can ship food out of Vermont. But if we want to, or ship food in rather, but if we really want to do a good job of feeding our state, I think we all have to play off our strengths. Mm-hmm. And not every farm should be doing everything. 40 crops, and they shouldn't be doing start to finish. Like, I mean, some should, but like, we should have like a strong, like transplant growing sector of like our vegetable economy. And then like, I know there's talk of a pack house, like a centralized pack house with weight baggers and stuff, like all computerized stuff like that. Like, we need that kind of stuff. And if everybody is doing this huge diversity and going to farmers market, and then you go to the grocery store and it's like all Olivia's brand greens or like Little Leaf, I just think we could be doing better as a whole state if we all just like focused on different things. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just like from what I've seen at our farmers market, which is definitely a tourist market. Like, it's it is what it is. 70% of our customers are not return customers every single week.
Whoa.
Yeah, and that's like from our
from your data.
From our data. I don't even have to make it up. I don't even have to assume. Our data, because most people pay with a card now.
New faces every week.
It's first time buyers.
Wow.
70% first-time buyers.
Mostly out of state.
Mostly out of state. They're in for a wedding.
Oh, I'm just gonna check out the
Oh,
farmers
I'm going to the
market,
farmer's
yeah?
market. Yeah, yeah. What can I bring home? And that's what they.
Right.
So kale is out.
snack.
Yeah. Yeah, they want like, a bunch of carrots with the tops, and then they want me to take the tops off.
Sell it with the tops.
So,
Break 'em right
yeah.
there.
Do you mind taking them? And I'd have like a couple of bins overflowing with carrot tops at the end of the day. It was hilarious.
Value added right there.
At that point, I'm losing money on it, because if they're just buying top carrots, like I can do top carrots way cheaper with way less effort.
Yeah, there's different ways to do that.
Yeah. So, I may have a different opinion about like how we should be feeding ourselves than maybe if like people were doing a good farmers market where it's like really good community involvement, and it was like you're seeing the same members of your neighborhood like multiple times a season at least, or like even every week would be cool. We just weren't seeing that at ours, and we're getting more traction selling at grocery stores and stuff, which is why we went in the wholesale direction. And same with like the CSA, there's just not enough people right here. So we were bringing it to Waitsfield, and then there's already other options in Waitsfield for CSAs. They do such a good job with it. So like, go ahead, you guys. But yeah, and feeling good about like trucking stuff too. Like a truck comes to the farm now to pick up, and then they do the logistics, which is, it's just nice to play off of what other businesses are set out to do, like in a sustainable way, I guess. Like if we're all just supporting each other, like we need all these different businesses and all these different niche kind of things.
Right. If you start taking out some of the marketing, you start taking out some of the trucking, and let you focus on the growing and the harvesting,
maybe the carrots wouldn't be so weedy. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So, yeah, no, it's, yeah. This is like Melissa was saying, seems like it's going to be a pivotal year, which I feel good about, because I thought last year was kind of pivotal, like going from hand harvesting to machine harvesting. But, like going into the year not needing to figure out the machine harvesting is different than that first. Yeah. So I don't know. There's just like a good feeling going into this year. Like we can handle what we're doing. We're getting set up to do it like well, got strong wholesale connections and buyers already. It just seems like, and we moved in 2016 and it's 2023 now. So how many years is that? 8, 9, 7? Oh, 23, 7 years. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I was thinking it was like 10 years, but
not quite.
I had done a couple of years with my parents. And I always like roll that into this, but it was
10 years
like
experience, 7 years.
7 years established here. So, not like the make $100,000 your first year kind of thing that is getting marketed to people anymore. But it's it definitely takes time to get traction, but I'm feeling good about like the traction we've got at this point.
The third stop in this show hops over the ridgeline where there is no snow, where we visit with Taylor, who is focused on CSA.
My name is Taylor Mendell, and I run Footprint Farm with my husband Jake. We are in Starksboro, Vermont. Our primary markets are a CSA program, which starts in the beginning of April and goes through until Christmas. And we have about 150 members at once, about 200 members over the season. We also sell wholesale to local restaurants, caterers, and grocery stores. And our primary crop is year-round greens. We farm on just a few acres. We have 1.5 acres in production outdoors, 1 acre that rests in cover crop, and about 1/4 of an acre in unheated high tunnels. Yeah, it's been exciting. I feel like we're kind of through, knock on wood, the COVID upheaval, and this year feels like the first start where we are a little bit sure of our systems, but are refining them and making them more permanent instead of reinventing the wheel. We have a new, not entirely new, but about 50% new crew this year, which is exciting. Feels like a good time to solidify some of those systems. And growing wise, it was a weird winter, which maybe all winters are going to be weird now. But we had a really slow start to our spring greens because of the lack of sunshine. So they're just starting to grow now, which is exciting because we started CSA this week and we needed greens.
Right, I was going to stop by the other day, but it was first day of CSA. How'd that go?
Yeah, it was good. We only had our spring CSA is really small. We just have 4 items, and we only had 3 this week, but that's fine. And we were able to use some carrots that's been sitting in the walk-in over the winter, which is nice. We're small, so we don't store a lot of crops, so that was exciting to have those. Yeah. And things went pretty smoothly. We've been using Grown By for the past couple of years, and this was the first year where it just felt smooth.
Nice.
And that felt good. Yeah.
What part of Grown By made it smooth?
I don't touch invoices anymore, which is really nice. We used to do all of our CSA signups through forms, Google Forms or Airtable forms, and then I'd create invoices in QuickBooks and then send them out, and there was this big back and forth with CSA members, and now it's a little weird because I don't even know who signed up until we print out the sign-up sheets on the day of pickup. But it's so nice that I can just press print and it says, this is what you should pack for the day, and it just works.
Oh, that's nice.
It's really nice. We're doing a few new experiments. I think the biggest one is that we're dipping back into some cost of production studies this year. We're using Know Your Cost to Grow, which is out of a few different organizations. The one that's coming to mind is Oregon Tilth, and I think Oregon State and one other one created that program. And so we're doing specific cost of productions on our baby mustard greens mix, scallions, because those seem to take a really long time. So we'll see how long they actually take to harvest. And then a comparison between paper potted carrots and direct seeded carrots.
Oh, interesting.
In a high tunnel. So that one's going to be really interesting. We're all a little bit nervous about it. We planted both, and the paper potted carrots are germinating well, but it's a little bit wider spacing. I mean, the closest you can get is 2 inches. It's a little bit wider spacing than we're used to, and there's a lot of rodent activity in the spring, and so we're realizing that, maybe direct seeded is nice because they kind of thin it out, but if they go after a paper pot carrot, then that's your carrot, you know. So that might be our biggest takeaway so far, but we're only a month in, so who knows.
Right.
Yeah. Another thing that we're doing, our biggest crew-wide frustration for the last few years has been our wash pack flow during our wholesale days, which I think is a common pinch point for maybe any farm, but having so many moving parts, and we don't have a huge inventory, and so if we didn't have enough for all of the chef orders, then it's who gets what, and things are moving around. We have to get to drop-offs before restaurants open. It's hectic, and so we've moved things around in our wash pack. We've put in a lot of storage stuff up high near the ceiling to get stuff out of the way, and we've moved around our wash lines so they're in different parts of the room to try to make walkways exist. And so that's been an exciting thing that's been driven by our crew, which is great to have such a nice buy-in and excitement about an organizing project. What else is exciting about this year? We're in one of the Jack Laser soil health cohort through NOFA this year, and so we've been doing monthly meetups with other farms talking about soil health strategies, which has been fascinating. It feels like we've been so caught up in systems changes and being new parents over the last few years that we haven't been geeking out over growing methods or soil health strategies for a few years. And so we're really getting into mostly different strategies for cover cropping is what we're excited about. But there's a lot of talk about oxygen pathways in the soil and soil microbes, and maybe the soil tests that we all do are not actually that informative. And there seems to be some really interesting research that's coming out, and it's partially validating because we're realizing that humans don't really understand soil, which is kind of nice to have a little mystery in the world. But it's also exciting because we have certain areas of the field where it just doesn't make sense. Everything's on point compared to a soil test, but things just aren't growing, and it's very it's in sections, and so we're really curious.
So the measured numbers are good, but the performance isn't there.
Exactly. The nutrients are there, the macronutrients are there, most of the micronutrients are there, but the plants are just unhappy for whatever reason. And we don't have much space for doing a nice full year cover crop in between cash crops. So that's another thing we're trying to figure out this year. On a small acreage, how do we get 50% cash crop, 50% cover crop?
You're pretty intensive production.
Yeah.
Off your available land.
Yeah, exactly.
Farm planning always happens in the winter. It's April. So far on plan? Or are things going not to plan?
If you look at our top priorities of the week right there, one of them is that Jake and I still need to sit down and figure out the last pieces of the crop planning. It seems like the winter is, we can do this, we should do this, can we do this, let's buy that, da, da, da. And you get this exciting, nice long list, and then in February, March, you buy all the things to start that plan, and then in April, late March, early April, we're implementing those plans. And so the last couple of weeks have just been this flurry of activity, trying to get everything done before. And there's a small window between, okay, there's no snow on the ground, so we can start cleaning up the trash or moving the pile of whatever. And then we lose that project time because the season gets really crazy. So we have about a 4 to 6 week window where we're trying to cram a winter's worth of projects in. But it's felt, we have a lot of crew excitement and crew presence. We have more people working this time of year than we've ever had before. And so it feels like we have the people power to actually get some of those projects done.
Oh, that's nice.
Which is exciting.
How many people are on your crew this spring?
We have 2 people working 4 days a week, 1 person working 2 days a week. And then we'll have a 4th person. Everyone will be full-time in May, and we'll have a 4th person joining us in May.
Wow.
Yeah, 4 full-time this year.
That's a lot. That's more than ever before, right?
Last year, it depended on the week. It was 5 to 6, but not all, but mostly part-time, which was too much schedule managing. We, as farm managers, are trying to reduce stress this year. So we are trying to implement a lot more schedules that we stick to, which I say with a smile because I'm hoping we can do it. But we're planning in time off during the week for myself and Jake, my husband, farming partner, so that we can actually get responsibility-free time. So we'll see. Check in with me in August, and we'll see if we've been doing that. But we've created some new crew positions that take on more responsibility than we've done before, which is why folks are working earlier to get into those, to get those systems down and comfortable before the season starts. And because it was so hectic managing the part-time schedules last year, we really tried to get folks who could work full-time this year, and are very excited that we have a full-time crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned you're fairly new parents, and I see on Instagram the daycare's canceled a lot. So how much farming versus momming, what's that ratio like this year?
I have no idea. That's the thing about it, is that you just don't. I think what I've realized, our son is almost 2.5. And I think what I've realized is that I love schedules, and I just can't have a schedule. And so part of our winter planning this year has been really looking at my responsibilities and trying to see what are the ones that I really have to do versus can I delegate? Can I hire a payroll service? What can I give to other people? And then the things that really I have to do, making sure we have childcare on those days, or that we can do it on a different day, or that I can squeeze it into nap times. So trying to create SOPs this time of year so that things that take me a little, they only happen monthly, so I have to reteach myself how to do it every month. I'm creating SOPs right now so I can do it in a, hour-long nap time. And I'm also not scheduled to be working on the farm this year. So we're calling my position a unicorn position, meaning that if we have childcare and I've done those essential tasks, I can help in the field. So I'm this kind of floating,
like a reward.
Floating unicorn. Yes,
bonus.
Exactly. I'm a bonus pair of hands, and I'm a little sad about missing mostly the hanging out with the crew. But part of my list of important non-negotiable tasks are some farm field activities. So I will be there for trellising, I will be there for certain wash pack days. So the things that I really like to do, we made sure that those are on my schedule.
Because you are a key player in the skills of things like trellising, or that's just part of what you really enjoy doing, so you don't want to miss that?
Both. A lot of the things, as we've gotten farther into our farming career, we have divvied up responsibility between Jake and myself. And when I say responsibility, I mean mental responsibility, so the knowledge of how to do it, where to get the supplies from, things like that. And so IPM is in my bucket, HR is in my bucket, tunnel management is in my bucket, and then certain wash pack systems have been in my bucket. And then Jake is more on the actual field, soil health, tractor work, planting schedule, wholesale management is on his side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he doesn't know how to do the tunnel management, and so it would be tough to replace me on that. And that's when we were looking at that list of things that I do. That's what we were looking at, is what information lives in my brain and not in anybody else's.
Right.
Yeah. And I like it. I do like it.
Well, that's the important part.
It's important. It would be a bummer if the only farm work I was doing was the stuff I don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the season's off to a pretty good start.
Yeah. Hope springs eternal. It always feels really good until that second week of June.
Yeah, right.
When the weeds catch up. But I'm excited. This is the first year in a few that I'm not inundated in momhood. Our son is old enough now that he can hang out for a little bit in wash pack, or he can play with his dump trucks while I'm seeding for a little while. And so it feels like there's some excitement about being able to get back into the farm work a bit. And we do have childcare lined up. It's just touch and go about who's sick and who needs vacation, and so we really take advantage of the days that he's there.
Are there any significant challenges that you want to talk about as far as like farm planning feels good for this year, but like it's just difficult to do because life happens and there's a whole bunch of irons in the fire?
But one interesting thing that I'm curious to see what's going to happen, and I've heard this across a few farms, is that our hiring was a little bit different this year, where we heard from multiple people who we were interviewing that they either didn't accept a job or pulled out of the interview process because they couldn't find housing. And I'm really curious to see how housing is going to influence farm labor in the future. It's already a big discussion. Most of our crew lives at least a half hour away. Mm-hmm. The commute is big, especially in the time of year when they're having to get here really early in the morning, and rent is increasing in places like Burlington, and farm wages aren't quite keeping up with that. We're doing what we can, but I'm curious to see how that's going to go. That's going to be a bigger and bigger struggle, I think. And then just the flow of getting the season planned and off the ground is really hard with kids. And it's a balance between taking care of ourselves and taking care of the farm and taking care of our child. And I think over the last few years we've prioritized one over the other, and we're trying to prioritize taking care of ourselves more this year. So we did drop some of the wintertime planning. We just didn't do because we said, it's more important that we go visit my family this winter instead of X, Y, or Z, or it's more important that I actually go see that physical therapist for that back issue that I've had for 10 years. So it's been we're calling 2023 the year of taking care of ourselves.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good mantra to head into the season with.
Yeah.
You've been a mom for 2 years now. Any advice you've learned? I mean, taking care of yourself is what you're prioritizing this year. So any words of encouragement to other farm moms that are harebrained about the start of the season?
It's so kid specific, and it's so job specific, and it's so parent specific. In our experience, it has been important for me to learn what it actually means to take care of myself. And I think it's taken 2 years, and I still don't really know, what rejuvenates me.
Yeah.
Look for childcare when you're pregnant. It's a big one. We're realizing now we're still a year out from preschool, and we're realizing we're behind on getting on wait lists for preschool, which is nerve-wracking, and something I had no idea how few childcare providers there are, nationwide, but certainly in our area. And being flexible, that's so cliche. All of it's so cliche, but then you realize, it's cliche for a reason. Mm-hmm. Those sayings exist because you do not know what your kid's mood is going to be like when they wake up in the morning, or if they're going to be sick, or if childcare is going to have to call out because they're having their own family issues. And having multiple backup plans has been really crucial for us, and doing that prioritization of what tasks do I really need to do and when do I need to do them, and making sure somebody else can watch our kid during those times. And then trying to, and this is hard for me because I love working and I love pushing myself, and being present with a kid can be tough for me and boring. As much as I love him, it's such a contradiction because, watching him jump off the same thing 30 times in a row can get boring. And so I'm really trying to learn to be present in the moment, which kids are good at forcing you to do, and remembering that he's not going to be here hanging out with us all the time. And if we have people who we can employ to do the work that I can't do right now, and I can spend time with him, that really helps me mentally to not feel like, oh, I wish he'd just nap so that I could go seed in the greenhouse. Instead being like, okay, seeding in the greenhouse is covered. I can play magnetiles for a little bit.
Yeah. For a bit.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to share?
Spring cleaning feels good.
It does.
I'm just going to say
It's
that.
funny that you highlighted that 4-week window because you're so right.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it's a Vermont thing because we have winter, so we're coming out of winter, and you're right. The snow melts and you're motivated and you can't really get stuff going yet. So you can clean up, but then, as soon as second week of April hits, it's kind of go time, and then
Exactly.
whatever you were able to clean up is done.
Exactly. I know, we have all these cleanup projects that have been like, well, okay, we get 2 weeks every April to chip away at that pile right there.
Yeah.
And with that, I hope your season is off to a good start, just like theirs. I'm Andy Chamberlain, and that was The Farmer's Share. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of the free bonus content. You can also visit thefarmersshare.com to check out more episodes and interviews. If you enter your email on our website, you'll get these photos and videos right into your inbox when the next episode comes out. This podcast is supported by the Vermont Vegetable and Berry Growers Association and the Ag Engineering Program of the University of Vermont Extension. If you're loving this show, I'd love it if you could leave me a review. It's easier than you might think. In Apple Podcasts, just click on the show and scroll down to the bottom. And there you can leave 5 stars and a comment to help encourage new listeners to tune in. Thanks for listening.